Welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be doing a website read from voicemailmagazine.org. This was posted back on October 14th, 2015. It's an article titled "Abusive Men Describe the Benefits of Violence." Reason I'm covering this today is because it's important to know that abuse happens because there's benefits. And this publication does an excellent job of talking to abusive men and getting the benefits listed down. Underneath the title of the article, we see an image of a larger-than-life monstrous male with sharp teeth glaring and yelling down at a hunkered-down woman and child who's holding a teddy bear. They are trapped underneath the wave of vitriol that is spilling from his mouth. Moving on from the image, we see that this article was written by Chuck Derry. I begin reading. For many years, I facilitated court-mandated groups for men who batter. In the early 1980s, we were concentrating on healthy relationship skills building, emotional identification and self-control, and anger management, among other related issues. Then battered women in Duluth, Minnesota, began gathering to discuss the impact of the violence on their lives. What emerged was that the men who beat them not only physically assaulted them, but also controlled where they went, who they talked to, what they wore, where they worked, if they worked, how the money was spent, when, with whom, and how they had sex, how the kids were raised, how the domestic labor was split in the household. You get the picture. Basically, the men got to control the women to get what the men wanted. And the threat and use of violence was the bottom line that ensured it would happen. Now, I was training men in weekly groups at the time to use assertiveness when in conflict with their wives or girlfriends, teaching them how to access and express their feelings appropriately. Then I would send them home to practice. The next week, they would come back and report that their new assertiveness, quote, skills, end quote, weren't working. I asked them why, and they would say, quote, because she still did A, B, C, and D, and would not do E, F, and G, end quote, which is what he wanted. Side note, note that the word he is italicized. Continuing on, I began then to slowly understand that I was teaching men multiple personal life skills, and they were simply using those skills in attempts to control women even more effectively. So what was the point? Why were they so invested in this controlling and abusive behavior? One night I started the group by asking the men what they thought the benefits were of their violence. Note that the word benefits is italicized. Continuing reading. At first they all looked at each other, parentheses, notably, end parentheses, and said, quote, there are no benefits, end quote. This did not surprise me, as men who batter routinely deny their actions, as they deny their intents as well. So I said, quote, well, there must be some benefits from the violence, otherwise why would you do it, end quote. Note that the word some is italicized. Continuing reading. They looked at each other again, and then one guy started admitting there were benefits, and then they all chimed in until the 4-by-8-foot blackboard I was writing their responses on was full. Here is a list of the benefits they cited, parentheses, until we ran out of space, end parentheses. First point, she's scared and won't go out and spend money. Second point, get your way, go out. Third point, respect. Fourth point, she won't argue. Fifth point, feeling superior. She's accountable to me in terms of being somewhere on time. I decide. Point 6, keeps relationship going. She's too scared to leave. Point 7, get the money. Point 8, get sex. Point 9, total control in decision making. Point 10, use money for drugs. Point 11, don't have to change for her. Point 12, power. Point 13, decide where to go, parentheses, as a couple, end parentheses. Point 14, who to see. Point 15, what to wear. Point 16, control the children. Point 17, if she's late, she won't be again. Point 18, intimidation. Point 19, she's scared and can't confront me. Point 20, can convince her she's screwing up. Point 21, she feels less worthy, so defers to my needs and wants. Point 22, she will look up to me and accept my decisions without an argument. Point 23, decide her social life, what she wears so you can keep your image by how she acts. Point 24, she's to blame for the battering. Point 25, she's an object. Point 26, parentheses, I get, end parentheses, a robot babysitter, maid, sex, food. Point 27, ego booster. Point 28, she tells me I'm great. Point 29, bragging rights. Point 30, if she works, get her money. Point 31, get her to quit job so she can take care of house. Point 32, isolate her so friends can't confront me. Point 33, decide how money is spent. Point 34, quote, I'm breadwinner, end quote. Point 35, buy the toys I want. Point 36, take time for myself. Point 37, she has to depend on me if I break her stuff. Point 38, I get to know everything. Point 39, she's a nursemaid. Point 40, she comforts me. Point 41, supper on the table. Point 42, invite friends over without her knowing, equals more work for her. Point 43, no compromise, equals more freedom. Point 44, don't have to listen to her complaints for not letting her know stuff. Point 45, she works for me. Point 46, I don't have to help out. Point 47, I don't have to hang out with her or kids. Point 48, determine what values kids have, who they play with, what school they go to, or getting to ignore the process, dictating what they, quote, need, end quote, food, clothes, recreation, etc. Point 49, dictate reality, etc. Point 50, kids on my side against her. Point 51, kids do what I say. Point 52, mold kids/her so that they will help do what I should do. Point 53, keeps kids quiet about abuse. Point 54, don't have to get up, take out garbage, watch kids, do dishes, get up at night with kids, do laundry, change diapers, clean house, bring kids to appointments or activities, mop floors, clean refrigerator, etc. Point 55, answer to nobody. Point 56, do what you want when you want to. Point 57, get to ignore/deny your history of violence and other irresponsible behavior. Point 58, get to write history. Point 59, get to determine future. Point 60, choose battles and what it will cost her. Point 61, proves your superiority. Point 62, win all the arguments. Point 63, don't have to listen to her wishes, complaints, anger, fears, etc. Point 64, make the rules, then break them when you want. Point 65, so she won't get help against you for past beatings because she has no friends to support her and she is confused by my lies. Point 66. Convince her she's nuts. Point 67. Convince her she's unattractive. Point 68. Convince her she's to blame. Point 69. Convince her she's the problem. Point 70. I can dump her. I can dump on her. Point 71. Can use kids to, quote, spy, end quote, on mom. Point 72. Kids won't tell mom what I did. Point 73. Kids won't disagree with me. Point 74. Don't have to talk to her. Point 75. I'm king of the castle. Point 76. Can make yourself scarce. Point 77. Have someone to unload on. Point 78. Have someone to bitch at. Point 79. She won't call police. Point 80. Tell kids don't have to listen to mom. Point 81. Get her to drop charges. Point 82. Get her to support me to her family, my family, cops, judge, SCIP, prosecutors, etc. Point 83. Get her to admit it's her fault. Side note, here ends the list. Continuing reading. The first time I did this exercise, I looked at the blackboard and I thought, quote, oh my God, why would they give it up, end quote. Note that the word would is italicized. Continuing reading. I then decided to ask the men, why give it up? They then filled a 2x2 foot space on the blackboard with things like, quote, get arrested, end quote, quote, divorce, end quote, quote, get protection orders taken out against you, end quote, quote, adult kids don't invite you to their weddings, end quote, quote, have to go to groups like this, end quote. That was about it. This was the first time I fully comprehended the necessity of a consistent, coordinated community response through the criminal, civil, and family court systems, which can mete out safe and effective interventions that hold men who batter accountable while preserving the safety of the women, girls, and boys they abuse. Note that the word community is italicized. Continuing reading. It was on that day that I realized if I had to choose between providing batterer groups for men who batter or a consistently effective criminal and civil/family court response to domestic violence, I would choose the criminal and civil/family court response every time. Note that the word or is italicized. Continuing reading. There are just too many benefits gained from this behavior. After that first time asking the men about the benefits of their violence, I began to be much more effective in my work. It was astounding how dramatically the groups changed once I acknowledged and remembered that the violence was functional, and that was why they used it. Here ends the article. Below that is an image of the author. White male, brown hair, glasses, mustache, looking to be mid-50s or so. Next to the image is his bio. Chuck Derry is director of the Gender Violence Institute, parentheses, genderviolenceinstitute.org, end parentheses, in Clearwater, Minnesota, a founding member of the North American Men Engage Network, parentheses, acronym NAMEN, end parentheses, and a member of the board of the Global Men Engage Global Alliance. He can be reached at gvi@frontiernet.net. Copyright 2015, Gender Violence Institute. Here ends the transcription. Unfortunately, I can only personally attest to some effects of this. I know I have friends, and I've seen other families undergo similar cases of abuse and violence. And unfortunately, those families were drawn to conservative denominations like the Wells because they reinforce the idea that patriarchy, or man must be the leader, as the norm and as the thing to be accepted. You could argue that they teach it as much or more so than they teach Jesus Christ as Lord and Savior. And that is simply not okay. And this is why I read stuff like this. Because the denominations won't change, and they won't call out abusive behavior. And they will not accept things like divorce. Thank you for watching/listening, and I will see you in the next video.
Leave the hurt behind, tearing the threads of the tether.